The John LeBang Show has been known to make people laugh, sing, think, scream, throw things in rage, and generally lose their minds. Listener discretion is advised.
Scheduled programming to bring you a show on the edge, broadcasting worldwide and out to the greater universe. You're listening to the John LeBang Show.
Greetings, Earthlings, and alert the media. The John LeBang Show is back on the air. And this hour, we're bringing you a special guest, my good friend, Derek Shelmerdine, joining us from across the pond. Derek, welcome back to the show.
Hi, John. It's great to be back chatting with you. I mean, we've got some great birthdays coming up in October, so I thought it might be nice to wish a few happy birthdays to people who are celebrating in the wonderful month of October.
It sounds great to me. We're going to start off with Mike Rutherford.
That's right. Happy birthday, Mike Rutherford. He's the bass playing founder of, or one of the founders of Genesis. He was born on the 2nd of October, 1950 in Guildford in Surrey. Now, Guildford's quite a posh place, and Genesis actually all came together in one of England's, what we call public schools, which actually means they're private schools and very expensive to send your kids to. And I mean, they sort of came together in the late 60s, and they were one of the Peter Gabriel was the lead singer, and he interesting stage presence. He used to dress as a flower and all kinds of things. But I mean, the Genesis's first, it was interesting. They were signed up to the Decca label by Jonathan King, and they released their first album, and 4 to 5 singles. All of them sank without trace, and you know they really didn't look as if they were going anywhere. But then they sort of kicked themselves into life and became one of the premier prog bands. I mean, their first single was "Silent Sun," which is really quite collectible because nobody bought it. But Mike Rutherford's interesting because he decided to have a sort of side band, and he formed in '85. He formed Mike and the Mechanics while he was still running along with Genesis, and they had their first hit single with "Silent Running" in 1986. It was successful both sides of the pond, 21 in the UK and number 6 in the US. So he managed to have a nice dual career. And interestingly enough, he's known to play a double neck guitar with a 12-string as one part and a bass guitar as the other. Now, that's an interesting combination.
Right, because most double neck guitars are the 6-string and the 12-string. That gave him an added low-end advantage for making music.
Oh, absolutely. And he's on tour as well. So, I mean, you can find him in Dublin in the UK between the 18th of February and the 9th of April. So sort of plenty of time to plan to go and see Mike and the Mechanics.
Speaking of bass players, we also have Sting is coming up this month.
Yeah, happy birthday, Sting. He was also born on the 2nd. So if you were born on the 2nd, you're in very good company. That was 1951 for spring. He was actually born Gordon Sumner. That's how his mother used to refer to him, in Wallsend in the north of England. And what's interesting about him is he picked up his nickname when he was in a band called the Phoenix Jazzmen in the mid-1970s, because he used to wear a bee-like black and yellow striped sweater. That must have been a sight to behold.
These musicians, they always have the flashiest attire.
Exactly. Sartorial elegance, as they say. And he went on, he was in a number of bands, and the last one he left before joining the Police was a band called Last Exit. So it's sort of early part of 1977, the Police came together, and on their first single, it was Stuart Copeland's Sting and a guitarist called Henry Padovani. And it was a sort a side band. Stuart Copeland and Sting were in another band around the same sort of time, middle of 77, called Strontium 90. There's a bit of physics to conjure with. And it was in that band that the guitarist was Andy Summers. And they all, got on well. So Summers joined the Police. So for a time, they were a four-piece with Copeland, Sting, Padovani, and Summers. But obviously, Padovani took the hump. And he left in the August of 77, and that's when they became a three-piece. And the Police that we all came to know and love.
You were talking about Strontium 90. That was a side project, right?
That's right. And the first single that was released as a Police single, it was a Police single called Fallout in the February of 77. That actually has Padovani as the guitarist on it. So if you're a Police fan, it's well worth hunting out that first single because it's the one with a different guitarist.
And he's on tour, isn't he?
That's right. Oh, he's all over the place. Across, 21st of September to the 19th of November. You can see him in America, Canada, then he's back to America. Then he goes over to Russia, Ukraine, Czech Republic, and Poland. So that's quite an interesting set of venues.
Right, and Sting is touring as the solo artist. Sting, the band Police, they haven't reunited for this tour.
Not for this. And it is interesting because Stuart Copeland, I'm not sure if he's out and about at the moment, he might well be, but he's on the road doing his own thing, and Andy Summers is on the road doing his own thing. I'm not sure if they've got gigs lined up at the moment, but in very recent times they certainly did have them. I mean, it might be just worth mentioning that, we say where the countries that these guys are in, but on my website, if you go to this page, it'll send you to the link for the band itself that gives all the tour details. So if you want to check out if Stuart Copeland and Andy Summers have got any gigs at the moment, just check it out through the website www.rockandrollunraveled.com.
That's awesome. Now, with the Police, they're officially not a band anymore, right? They're just all doing their solo thing. And there's no talk about. I haven't heard any that there was talk about them ever getting back together. Why did they break up?
I think they just ran their course, really. And I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't reunite at some point in the future. I don't recall seeing any big official announcement saying that, we're never ever going to play together again. And I don't recall any of them falling out in, Everly Brothers style fashion. So it wouldn't surprise me if they put a world tour together in the distant or not so distant future, because there'd be an awful lot of money in it for them.
Yeah, I was curious about that because that was one of the bands that I never heard a lot of drama from. They seem to be a really tight-knit band, and they just stopped performing together.
Yeah, I think what it probably is that, they were together for a long time, and they're all very active, and they're all very smart musicians, in their own rights. Sting, you think of Police, you think of Sting, but the other guys are very accomplished musicians, and I think they were just keen to develop off in their own direction. And Sting as well does quite a lot of solo stuff that doesn't sound very Police-like, as it were.
Yeah, he's a very versatile writer.
Yeah.
So we go from Sting to one of the funnest bands of all time, the Ramones.
Oh, yeah. They've got no tour coming up, but I couldn't let October birthdays go without saying, if you were born on the 8th of October and you're a Ramones fan, wow, you're in good company. Johnny Ramone was born in 48 on the 8th, and CJ Ramone was born on October the 8th in 1965, a generation apart, basically. Johnny was obviously a founding member back in 74, and CJ replaced Dee Dee Ramone when that all went pear-shaped at the sort of end of the 80s.
It's too bad they're not going to be touring.
Oh, yeah.
No chance there.
Oh, they'd be a great band to see. They were very instrumental in the whole British punk thing taking off in 77. They all claim that the Ramones were one of the really big influences on them.
And they were always, at least here in the States, they were always that band that a lot of people talked, not in the level of Zeppelin and all that, but it was like that lower half of group. The people out here just loved them. I mean, even Blitzkrieg Bob was put on the new Spider-Man movie just a year and a half ago because that's how popular they were just here. It was a nice underground niche for the people, and punk was that in general.
Oh, absolutely. And it was great. I mean, that was the time, prog had taken rock up into the stratosphere of full orchestral accompaniment in live gigs. And it was people like the New York Dolls and the Ramones that very much pulled it back down to 2-minute songs at like 200 miles an hour. With not too many complex chord changes. And it was, good old-fashioned rock and roll, as it were.
Yeah, they simplified music again, and it was popular.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And they're great to listen to now as well. I love that those early Ramones albums. I think they're brilliant. Shame there's no tour.
Yeah. And is there, I thought somebody died, right? One of the members have passed away, and the rest of the guys probably just don't want to go on tour without them, right? Something like that.
I don't think that we'll be seeing the Ramones on tour as the Ramones anytime soon. But I thought, you couldn't let October Birthdays go by without the fact that the two of them were born on the same day. I mean, what's the chances of that?
Yeah, exactly. Now, the day after, October 9th, of course, a few years earlier, Jackson Browne was born.
Oh, that's right. One of the great singer-songwriters. Happy birthday, Jackson Browne, October the 9th, 1948. He was actually born in Germany, in Heidelberg. His father was an American serviceman, so he was serving out there when Jackson Browne was born.
That's interesting. So technically, he's a native German.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that works in terms of passports, where he can get himself a German passport anytime soon. But certainly that's where life started. And in terms of his sort of professional life, in the mid-'60s, he started out in a nitty-gritty dirt band, which is interesting. He wasn't there for very long, but what a great band to start out in.
I have to admit, I don't know that band. Any songs that we would know?
Oh, they do a brilliant version of When the Circle is Unbroken. They've got a triple album. They're a country band, basically. And they've never really made the sort of first division, as it were. They never quite got into the sort of Willie Nelson levels. But they are a well-respected country band.
It was nice to hear you sing there, Derek. I'm usually the one doing the singing.
Yeah, I'm the only Welshman who can't sing, mate. My father was a good singer. My brother sings. But
you play drums, man. I'm sorry, but drums are harder than singing.
You don't get too many singing drummers, I must say. I mean, there are one or two famous ones, but not too many. But he signed himself up to a branch of Elektra Records. He became a house songwriter for a while. And, he's had some awesome albums, but he's also written some interesting stuff. I mean, on Nico's Chelsea Girl album in 1967, he wrote 3 of the songs and plays guitar on them. And, people like Lou Reed and all sorts of people are on that particular album. And he wrote Take It Easy with Glenn Frey for the Eagles. So as well as all of his own individual solo albums, he's written some great stuff for other people.
Yeah, he's an iconic singer and songwriter, definitely. And he's on tour.
Oh, he's on tour. I mean, he seems to have developed a social conscience, because he's got 5 concerts coming up, all in America. They're sort of pretty much across America. And he calls it the Lantern Tour. And quotes after that, it says, concerts for migrant refugees and families. And that spreads across October from the 15th to the 28th.
Why not? Do your tour? Because everybody's got to have something to say, right?
Absolutely. It's good. I think it's quite good to see musicians get involved in politics as well.
Definitely. You got, now we're up to October 10th, and you got John Prine?
Yeah, another great singer-songwriter. One of the guys I don't think that's ever really got the credit that he deserves. He was born on the 10th of October 46, and his first album came out in 71. And I mean, if you were